Yo, I'm gonna tell you right now. I'm gonna tell you right now, my nigga. Get out my face for real, man. Before I fuck you up, you hear me? Yo, get out my face before I fuck you up. You hear me, boy? Before I knock you out. Keep playing with me.
Good.
Keep playing before I knock you out.
Yeah.
I got all the evidence right here. Get out my face. Stop playing with me, right? I ain't worried about that word, boy. You weak.
Nice.
You a weak ass man. Get the fuck
Yeah,
out of here.
I'm weak.
Get the fuck out of here, man.
Shake that.
Yo, get the fuck out of here. You weak, man. For real. Yeah, let's go. Listen. Let's stop playing with me for real. You gotta stop playing with me, boy. Stop playing with me.
How?
Stop playing before I knock you out.
Why?
Stop playing with me, boy, for real. Stop playing with me. Stop playing with me for real. Look. Stop playing with me for real, but I'm listening. Matter of fact, yeah, let's go. Listen, matter of fact,
How?
yeah, let's go.
I got you. That's what happened when you call people niggas. You knock the fuck out. I got you, bro.
You fucking ever, you hear me? Knock you clean the fuck out, B. Stop playing with me out here, you hear me? Stop fucking playing with me, boy. Calling me a nigga and shit. Did he call me a nigga for no reason? Like, did he call me a nigga for no reason, B? I'm on my business. He coming over here and fuck on me. He drunk. Fuck out of here, B. Now lay down. Stop playing with me, boy, for real. Did he provoke me? Yes or no? Yes or no? He provoked me, so lay the fuck down. Nigga, knock you the fuck out. Stop playing with me out here, son, for real. Watch your fucking mouth, man.
Umbrella. She's up. Whole nother level of shit you can't even understand.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another episode of The Forecast. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but I haven't been able to post anything onto YouTube for the last 2 weeks because YouTube gave me a copyright strike for hate speech. Because we know dealing with anything that has to do with black empowerment or teaching black people their own history is considered a hate crime, not only in America, but in the world. And I was going to do this video exposing YouTube and their racism with their white and Indian owner. And the Indian guy did go to Congress to talk about the shady practices they do, but the white owners refused. And I was going to talk about the racial bias with YouTube, but we all know it's there. Even though just last year, racist extremists from the right wing went on national TV complaining about bias against them. And by the way, those same group of people had no problem getting a platform on national TV. But if you go look on YouTube today, just about all of those racists who were claiming they were being discriminated against, their channel is still there. But if you go on a pro-black channel that's not talking about hate and is about education, a lot of them are using backup channels, or YouTube is always messing with their main channel. If I was to upload this video on YouTube, they'll probably ban my channel for life. But if I was on here attacking other black people instead of the system of white supremacy and causing confusion in our community instead of trying to clear it up, my channel would be just fine. But I'm not even going to make this video about YouTube and Google and their racial bias because number one, you have to expect it. I would probably be more worried if they weren't messing with my channel. And all they're really doing is just proving us right. But it's also bigger than them. There is a reason why they created a law that made it illegal for us to read. Because if we understand who we are and our history, even just our history here in America and what we have done, then they know we'll be a problem. Even back in the 1800s, you had people like Ida B. Wells. And they tried to label her as a feminist and downplay how much she stood up for black people, men and women, and her spirit of black power. After one of her friends, a black man, was lynched because he was dating a white woman, Ida B. Wells used whatever position and influence that she had to expose the situation. And she used her own printing press to publish the story about what happened to her friend. And not only that, she became one of the first people to expose white women and how they were used in lynching black men and the violence against the black community. And when white mobs saw it, they became so angry. They burned down her home. They destroyed her business, her printing press. They made threats and tried to kill her. And Ida B. Wells had to leave home and never come back again. But do you think she gave up? No. She went on to write books like The Red Record and books like Southern Horrors, where she was the first one to expose and talk about the lynch law and expose how the dominant society used lies and knew they were lies just to commit violence and lynch black men because they were jealous of the capability of us making money. And no matter how many death threats and attacks on our home, she never gave up. She continued fighting for black people until the day she died. This woman was Rosa Parks before Rosa Parks was born, when she refused to give up her seat on a train for a white person. And we have to understand that we are standing on people like Ida B. Wells' shoulders and so many greats. We can't keep starting in the same place where they started in 100 years ago, 50 years ago. We have to pick up where they left off and continue the movement. And if she can do that in the 1800s with a printing press, we can't let anybody silence us today. And today we have other advantages they didn't have. The internet changed the game, even though they've been trying to silence us from day one. But here we are. And we have to understand that they can't stop me or you, because it's not us as an individual, it's the energy. And they can't stop this energy. And as long as they use their media to create an image of us, we have to use ours to create our own images. And that's why I'll continue to expose this system and how it works. In Chicago, a 19-year-old brother, Kajuan Raye, was shot in the back by Chicago police. Now let's see how this brother, like so many other brothers, ended up getting shot by the police in the back.
Chicago police poring over surveillance video of an officer chasing a suspect just moments before he was shot to death. 19-year-old Kajuan Raye was the one seen in that video sprinting from police. He had a troubled past, but family members say he did not deserve to die. Eyewitness News reporter Liz Nagy live at police headquarters for us tonight. Liz?
Rob, tonight Chicago police say it is unclear whether or not that officer was wearing a body camera at the time of the shooting. However, there were cameras in the area. They don't show the moment the officer's gun went off, but they do show what led up to that deadly encounter. As Kajuan Raye waited at a West Englewood bus stop Wednesday night, a CPD sergeant abruptly pulled up. At the sight of a police officer, you see the 19-year-old take off running. The sergeant is right on his heels. Surveillance cameras posted outside Nazarene All Nations Church at 65th and South Ashland captured the chase from a few different angles, west on 65th Street and south into an alley behind the church. Moments later, only the police officer survived the chase. Police say 19-year-old Kajuan Raye matched the description of a person given in a call about a fight nearby.
There's no altercation, there's no mob of people, there's no fighting, there's no arguing or anything like that. So, yeah, it's suspect.
As Raye ran from the officer, police say
the sergeant then told investigators that the offender turned and pointed a weapon in the direction of the sergeant on 2 separate occasions during the pursuit.
In an hours-long investigation, detectives searched the area, even the roofs of homes, for a gun. They haven't found one.
In this situation, they said he had a gun, yet they can't recover a gun. This is a problem because I'm tired of that same narrative being pushed every time.
Kajuan Raye's family says the teenager had ups and downs in his life. His Facebook page has pictures that reflect gang imagery. Now his death is part of a police investigation. Raye's family released a statement tonight that says they are heartbroken over his death. The family also says they have retained an attorney and they plan to hold the department accountable for this officer's actions. Tonight, as part of protocol, that officer is on 30-day paid administrative leave.
Now, this brother Kajuan Raye was just standing at the bus stop minding his own business. Then all of a sudden, this cop, Sergeant John Poulos, just pulled up on him out the blue. He said this brother Kajuan Raye fit the description that any one of us would have fit had we been standing there instead of him. But after this cop just pulled up on his brother out of nowhere, he took off running. Because we already know the kind of dirt the Chicago police is into, that we can already prove, plus all the conspiracies about the Chicago police. So this brother took off running. Because after all of the deaths that we have seen, this brother probably feared for his life. Now, the police said his brother may have been involved in a fight, even though there's no evidence a fight even happened. But as this cop, John Poulos, was chasing him, he said this brother turned around on 2 separate occasions and pointed a shiny object at him. So then this cop said he had no other choice but to pull out his gun and open fire, shooting his brother in his back, killing him. Now, the police wanted to say he was pointing a gun at him, even though this brother was in full sprint mode the opposite direction. But they couldn't say he turned around with a gun twice because they never found the gun. So they just had to say a shiny object. And even though the police searched the area, they didn't find any gun.
A 19-year-old Dalton man is dead, and a veteran police sergeant is under investigation after a fatal encounter in Inglewood. The veteran cop says the teenager had a weapon and that he shot him out of fear for his life. But as CBS 2's Mike Puccinelli reports, there's a big problem with that story. He joins us live now to explain. Mike.
Hi, and the problem is if there was a weapon, police can't find it. And that's why activists say this is just the latest example of a bad shooting by a Chicago police officer.
So now this to happen the day before Thanksgiving, you know, it's really rough. It's really rough. I mean, tears are flowing.
Akia White says her family is trying to get through the holiday knowing that her cousin won't be joining them this Thanksgiving or any other. That's because Kajuan Raye was shot dead last night by a Chicago Police Department sergeant. That veteran cop says the 19-year-old was running from him when he pointed a weapon not once, but twice.
The sergeant then indicated he discharged his weapon, striking the offender.
On the police radio, the immediate aftermath can be heard.
2 shots fired by the police. Got a 10-1, shots fired by the police, shots fired by the police.
But White says her cousin didn't own a weapon and was confident the police wouldn't find one.
They can search all night, all day. There is no gun involved.
And police, despite searching with canines and numerous officers for more than 12 hours, didn't turn up the weapon.
And we were not able to locate a weapon as of yet.
White says her cousin ran for a simple reason.
Because he's a young black male, and they are afraid of the police. They don't believe that the police are there to protect and serve.
Activist Jamal Green says he spoke with police officials today about the sergeant who fired the fatal shot.
CPD told me today that his background is not good and that he had another police-involved shooting before.
This surveillance video shows a Chicago police officer chasing an Inglewood teen moments before the officer shot him in the back, killing him. COPA recently found the officer's actions justified, but as CBS 2's Cesar Rodriguez explains, questions remain about where and when a weapon was recovered.
I miss him dearly. My whole family miss him dearly.
Kajuan Raye continues to demand justice 3 years after her son Kajuan Raye was fatally shot in the back by a Chicago police sergeant.
This has been a hard journey for me and my family. My son was only 19 years old.
Today, the family of the teen expressed their outrage outside police headquarters, days after the Civilian Office of Police Accountability concluded their investigation. This video shows Officer John Poulos running after Kajuan in 2016. COPA ruled the shooting was justified.
There was no gun, there still is no gun, and there won't be a gun because Kajuan did not have a gun.
Investigators never found a gun at the scene the day of the shooting. However, a weapon was found under some bushes 3 months later. COPA concluded that the testimony, social media pictures, and circumstances allowed them to determine that the weapon was in the teen's possession at the time of the shooting.
I just want John Poulos to get what he deserves for killing. Not only one, but two.
She's talking about a similar incident that happened in 2013.
Shots fired by the police. I shot the man.
That's a 911 call from then Officer Poulos after he fatally shot a man who had pointed a shiny object at him. A gun was never found, and IPRA determined that the use of deadly force was in compliance with CPD policy.
Chicago Police Department informed us today that Sergeant Poulos was placed on active duty status when COPA concluded its investigation.
Now, even though squads of police with police dogs couldn't find the gun for weeks, 3 months later, the gun happened to appear in some bushes near where this brother was shot. And of course, this brother's family is calling it BS. But the police said it was Kajuan Raye's gun and in his possession based on the testimony from the cop, from social media, and from circumstances in the case. Basically, the police are saying he had this gun on him because we say so. And even then, some of those same experts said it was no way he could have been pointing this gun at a cop or even have it in his hands at the time he was shot. And even if he did have this gun on him, they shot him in the back. But of course, it doesn't matter what kind of evidence it is. The police are going to stay on code, and they justified the shooting.
Tonight, CBS 2 has learned the police sergeant seen here chasing a teen before fatally wounding him was involved in an unarmed shooting 3 years ago. Good evening. I'm Rob Johnson.
And I'm Erica Sargent. CBS 2's Suzanne Lemonnier is here now with this original report. Suzanne.
Rob, Erica, now we're talking about a veteran police sergeant involved in 2 deadly shootings. The sergeant, who CBS 2 is not naming, reported seeing a weapon. In each case, none was found. In the most recent incident, the sergeant is seen here on surveillance video chasing Kajuan Raye Wednesday night. Police say the sergeant was responding to a call of a battery in progress in Englewood. Raye was shot in the back.
Shots fired by the police. Shots fired by the police.
The sergeant said Raye pointed a weapon at him twice. Police never found one at the scene.
He didn't get a chance to live no life at 19 years old. What gave you the right to take my nephew's life? That wasn't right. It's not right, and justice needs to be served.
Back in 2013, the same sergeant, who at the time was an officer, shot and killed Ricky Rozelle in Lincoln Park. The officer was off duty when he says he saw Rozelle trying to break into a building. He says he shot Rozelle because the 28-year-old wouldn't show him his hands. The Independent Police Review Authority said the shooting was justified. They found Rozelle threatened to kill the officer and turned toward him with a shiny metallic object. Just like in Wednesday's shooting, investigators never found a weapon on or near Rozelle's body.
2 massive verdicts against the city of Chicago, costing taxpayers millions of dollars. You can blame police abuse and police shootings.
The rulings handed down late this afternoon. CBS 2 investigator Megan Hickey is in the newsroom. Megan.
Brett and Erica, we've just learned the city will be on the hook for $5.2 million to just one man alone, Stanley Rice, who was wrongly imprisoned for over 30 years. 65-year-old Rice was exonerated of his rape conviction in 2013, but was never actually given a certificate of innocence. Rice sued the city of Chicago, claiming he was tortured into confessing by corrupt detectives. Those detectives served under notorious Chicago police commander John Burge. Today, the federal jury found they coerced a confession from Rice and engaged in conspiracy. Now, that's just one of 2 massive payouts awarded today. A federal jury found Chicago Police Sergeant John Poulos liable in the 2016 fatal shooting of a 19-year-old and awarded his family more than $1 million. It's a story we've been covering for years. Here's the surveillance video that shows Poulos chasing Kajuan Raye moments before the sergeant shot him in the back and killed him. Poulos claimed he had a gun, but it was 3 months before investigators found a weapon under some bushes. The Civilian Office of Police Accountability said the shooting was justified.
Heading west. 2 shots fired by the police.
2 shots fired by the police.
Now, that incident came 3 years after Poulos also shot and killed another man in 2013, 28-year-old Ricky Rozelle in Lincoln Park. That shooting was also ruled justified, but investigators never found a weapon on or near Rozelle's body. Kajuan Raye's family hopes that COPA will reopen their investigation into Poulos, calling for him to be fired.
Now, it turns out this cop, John Poulos, already murdered one black man before in another case just like this one. While he was off duty, he approached another brother, Ricky Rozelle, because he said he thought this brother was trying to break into an apartment building. Then he said he mistook his watch for a gun. And then after this brother didn't comply and show him his hands when he told him to, he just shot him. And just like in this case, he said the brother Ricky Rozelle had a gun on him, but they never found this gun that he had. And with Kajuan Raye, they just magically found this gun under some bushes 3 months later, even though police dogs couldn't find it, teams of police couldn't find it. It just happened to appear one day. And of course, we see what happened when these cops aren't punished after he killed the brother Ricky Rozelle. In the 3 years in between the 2 murders, this cop John Poulos got a promotion to sergeant and a raise, getting paid $100,000 a year. And in the case with Kajuan Raye, even though this cop was never punished, in a trial for the lawsuit, a federal jury found him guilty of battery. But of course, they didn't go too far off code. And the same jury said the cop didn't use excessive force, even though they found him guilty for battery. But they only said it wasn't excessive force to stay on code, and so the city wouldn't have to pay but so much money. But it doesn't matter, because as long as we go to their courts, under their laws, facing their punishments, we are at their mercy. And at some point, we have to let this serve as the motivation we need to start creating our own and supporting our own and doing what we have to do, because at the end of the day, we are all we got. And we're going to keep finding that out over and over and over. Now, are we going to keep learning it the hard way, or are we going to finally figure it out and do what we have to do? Because nothing is going to change until we change it.
Get your ass out my way. Get your ass out my way. Get your fucking ass out my way.
I am.
Get the fuck out of me! Bitch. Let's keep recording, so. Look out, man. Look out, man. Man, get out the way, man. Press 911.
Max, call. Max, call.
I am listening. What is he doing? Walmart on Sprague. Yeah, I'm at the at the intersection of Sprague and lock your door. Sprague, you got the yeah.
That
what you doing?
This is her car.
This is not her car. This is not
her
her car.
Dad!
Get out of the car. Get out of the fucking car.
This is not her fucking car. This is not her fucking car.
Dad. Dad.
Hello, we need help. Hey. Man, you Dad, go.
Oh, Dad. Dad. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my. No.
Get out of my way.
Oh my god.
Dad, go.
Oh my god.
I don't even like
I'm
kids.
so ugly. What?
Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. You are so pretty. You all shut up. Go in the room. You when you look at yourself, you supposed to say, I'm so pretty. You are so pretty. Do you hear me? You got the prettiest little dimples. You are too cute. No, you gonna make me cry. You're not ugly. Baby girl. Oh my God, Ariana, you're not ugly. Baby girl. You are so pretty. You are like you have this beautiful chocolate skin. Like you are just so gorgeous. You got these dimples. Remember what I told you? How many people got 2 dimples? Nobody. You got 2. Let me see you smile. Let me see. You got 2 dimples. I don't even have 2 dimples. Girl, let me see your teeth. Look at them pretty white teeth. No, you're not going to cry. You are a beautiful little girl, and you are pretty. You are the prettiest girl in your class. Boom. Tell them straight up. When you go to school tomorrow, you got your hair done. You're going to be like, oh, look at my hair. Oh, look at my shoes. Look at my clothes, baby girl. You are beautiful. Black is beautiful. And if don't nobody ever tell you, I will tell you, you are gorgeous. You are so pretty. And you're going to grow up and you're going to be everything that you can be. You're going to be the greatest nail tech, the greatest beautician, the greatest lawyer, the greatest doctor, the greatest teacher, whatever you want to be, the greatest speaker, the greatest entrepreneur, whatever. What you want to be? What you want to be when you get older?
Oh, the teacher.
You want to be? Your teacher mean to you? So guess what? When you become a teacher, you don't be mean. You be a nice teacher. You gonna be Miss Cotton. That's what they gonna call you. Miss Cotton. You gotta be happy all the time because you're a little kid, you only 4, and you should not know nothing about being ugly because you are so beautiful. You hold your head up. You hold your head up.
The desert goes.
Okay, she's gonna have to come with us now.
Okay, Kai, you
Stand
gotta
up.
go with them, baby girl.
Stand up. Okay, come over here.
What are those for?
It's for you.
Keep your hands, okay? Come over here, honey. It's not gonna hurt.
No!
Okay,
No, I don't want it, Kajuan! No! Don't put handcuffs on! Please! Help me! Help me! Please! Help me!
Let's go.
Your grandma will come pick you up, okay?
Oh, I was here to school. I just got you. Oh,
Come on, let's go.
no, please let me go.
Okay, come on. You can tell me what happened in the car, okay?
I don't want to go to the police car.
You don't want to?
No, please.
You have to.
No, please. Give me a second chance.
You gotta
I don't want No. Please. 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 Please let me go. No. No, help me.
Okay.
Please.
Newly released images of a 6-year-old girl being arrested at school, crying as her hands are tied behind her back. How does this happen? And the officer now fired. Here's ABC's Victor Kendo.
Tonight, the gut-wrenching body cam video that is hard to watch.
No, please. Give me a second chance.
An Orlando police officer taking a 6-year-old girl from her school, her hands zip-tied behind her back.
Please.
Heartbreaking cries as she's lifted into a patrol car.
Please let me go.
The video of this September arrest just released by the family. According to the police report, officers were called after the school complained little Kaya Roll had kicked and punched 3 staff members.
No.
Kaya sobbing when the restraints were put on.
No. Don't put handcuffs on.
After Kaya was taken away, Officer Dennis Turner returned.
6,000 people I've arrested over the 28 years. 7 is the youngest. She's 6. Now she has broken the record.
Charges against Kaya have been dropped, but the family is preparing to take legal action. Kaya says she's now afraid of the police and has nightmares from the incident.
I was crying for someone to also call my grandma.
The school is saying they never asked for Kaya to be arrested. Dennis Turner was a retired officer working extra duty, and he has since been fired.
To be able to go to school and be supported. You're not supposed to go to school and be handcuffed and physically abused.
Yes, handcuffed and assaulted. A family says that's what happened to their first grader inside this elementary school. And tonight, that family is suing the Pittsburgh Public Schools in federal court.
Our investigator Rick Earl joins us live in the studio with this Target 11 exclusive. And Rick, this family really fears this could happen to other children.
Yeah, they really do. And the grandfather told me that's his main reason for coming forward. He doesn't want to see this happen to another student. And his lawsuit uses words like unreasonable, excessive, and conscious shocking.
I'm angry. I'm not surprised. I'm just mad it happened to someone in my family.
Fela Turner's 7-year-old grandson was handcuffed by a school police officer here at Liberty Elementary in Shadyside after throwing a tantrum in class. Court documents say he repeatedly destroyed school property, threw objects, pushed staff members, and failed to follow directives. Turner and his daughter have now filed a federal lawsuit accusing the district of civil rights violations and excessive force.
You're supposed to be able to go to school and be supported. You're not supposed to go to school and be handcuffed and physically abused and locked indoors and choked.
The suit also claims a teacher placed his knee on his back while he lay on the floor and another time reportedly choked him. The suit says the principal physically prevented him from leaving a small room. Turner says his grandson told him that happened on multiple occasions, but Turner says school administrators never mentioned it.
There are permanent things that you're writing in his book that's not true. What the truth is that he tore up a classroom because you locked the door.
Turner says his grandson began having behavioral problems in kindergarten, but didn't get the help he needed. He was ultimately diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder and oppositional defiance disorder. The lawsuit claims the district failed to provide any recommendations regarding interventions and support that could be implemented in the school setting.
He didn't get it, and no. And what he got was, he was a problem. That's what he got. He got the feeling of being a problem. And the only way to get rid of this problem was to build a case. What they never expected was me.
Turner removed his grandson from Liberty after the handcuffing incident. He says he's now in a private school and excelling in academics and athletics. He's ranked 3rd in the country in his age group in javelin.
He's highly intelligent. He makes almost straight A's every report period. He does very, very well in the school that he's in.
What's the difference?
The difference is the attention that he's getting that he didn't get.
The district declined to comment on the allegations or the lawsuit. They have petitioned a judge to dismiss the suit. According to Turner, the principal and teacher are no longer with the district. Meanwhile, Turner says his goal is to prevent this from happening to another child.
What we just cannot do is just let the system physically abuse, mentally abuse, and handcuff a little kid and then expect them to just go on with life as if nothing happened and say, oh, we made a mistake, we're sorry that happened. No, not this time.
Fighting to get answers for a furious Lithonia mother tonight. She's angry after DeKalb County police handcuffed and detained her 11-year-old daughter. CBS 46's Trayson Bragg joins us live with more on what led up to this altercation. Trayson.
Sean, the mother tells me that terrifying and traumatizing incident happened right here in front of her home, and it was all captured by her surveillance cameras.
Yes, ma'am.
This may look like your normal perp walk.
Extreme anger is what comes to mind.
But it definitely is not.
Livid at DeKalb Police Department for detaining my 11-year-old, for traumatizing my 11-year-old.
Centria Hendricks tells me this unfortunate scene played out Wednesday evening. A DeKalb County police officer knocked on her door just after 7:30. He explained witnesses saw a 16-year-old girl run in the direction of her home after attempting to break into a car. He then asked to speak to Hendricks' 11-year-old daughter.
He asked her name, asked had she been in the house. She told him yes, and that's when he was telling me that, someone named her, and I was like, negative, sir. My daughter has been in the house.
Hendricks even pulled out her phone and showed the officer surveillance video proving she and her daughter had been home for hours. Somehow, that just wasn't enough.
He was like, put your hands behind your back. I'm going to detain you. And I was like, what? He starts moving towards my daughter, and I was like, what? Are you serious?
He held the 11-year-old handcuffed in the back of his squad car for 10 minutes. That is, until he finally realized she didn't fit the description.
Oh, well, we thought she was older because the description said that she was 16 years old, so we apologized. We're just doing our job, is what we got.
Is that enough?
No, not even a little bit.
I reached out to the DeKalb County Police Department about their officers' actions, again, that were all caught by that surveillance camera. They have not responded so far. Hendricks tells me she hopes that this traumatizing incident leads to a change in the department's policies.
Friday morning, Craig Williams says he visited this 7-Eleven on 43rd Avenue in Sacramento, only to leave in handcuffs.
I wasn't bothering anybody, nor did I seek out any conflict. So the fact that this happened to me does not sit well with me at all.
In the officer's body camera footage released today, you can see the officer asking Williams to come out of the store, then briefly enters his car. For several seconds, the conversation between the two stays muted before the audio kicks in.
ID, please. Green 67.
I didn't break no law. Give you an ID for what?
Later in the body cam video, the officer explains why he wants an ID.
I'm just asking, it's against the law to have your car running.
Yeah, if you have another unit, that'd be great.
That's all I'm asking.
It is against the law to have your car running when you're not in it.
The body cam footage then shows a struggle between the two men.
Your car was running.
I didn't break no law.
I'm trying to tell you that you broke the law.
Please, if I'm in trouble, I want a lawyer.
Set your phone down.
No.
Set your phone down.
I'm on record.
Set your phone down.
Now.
I'm going to detain you.
Detain me for what? What are you detaining me for?
The confrontation quickly went viral after his girlfriend shared this video on social media. You can see here at one point the officer wrestles with Williams before taking him down.
Man, what are you doing, man? Get off of me.
Oh my God!
I'll give up. I give up. I give up.
The attorney representing Williams says the situation should have never gotten to this point.
I've been a lawyer a long time. I never knew that was a crime.
When an officer is giving, lawful instructions, it's important to follow those for everybody's safety, for the citizen, for the officer, for the people around in the area.
The conflict stirred harsh criticism from the NAACP, who called this an example of racial profiling.
African Americans concerned about driving and walking while black now have to be concerned about leaving a car idling while black.
Put your hands behind your back.
I feared for my life.
Put your hands behind your back, you can get tased.
I was completely powerless in this situation. They didn't acknowledge my EMT identity. They didn't acknowledge my uniform.
Maurice Dearden, an EMT with McCormick Ambulance, is the man these LAPD officers are commanding to put his arms behind his back.
This is a traumatic life experience for me.
On August 22nd, Dearden was in the middle of an emergency transport. In the back of the ambulance was this LAPD sergeant. Dearden and a patient who was reportedly having a seizure and had possibly been the victim of a sexual assault.
What I did was I laid her down supine, so flat, and I tightened up the safety belts. Due to her flailing body nature, I needed to tighten her down. It's a safety hazard in the moving ambulance.
But he says the woman refused to stay in place.
She had a history of autism, so there was kind of a communication barrier. So where she wasn't fully responding to what I was saying. Suddenly,
Dearden says the patient managed to unstrap herself.
There was a huge concern, once she's off the gurney, I can't dictate her behavior. A person is very capable of opening the door of an ambulance and jumping out.
Immediately, Dearden says he pulled the patient back onto the gurney. And that's when Dearden says the sergeant accused him of assaulting the patient.
By me physically restraining her, just doing my job. It was a necessity because the patient was becoming a danger to herself.
The sergeant then called for backup. Officers arrived and arrested Dearden.
While this is going on, what are your thoughts? What's going through your mind?
Very fearful situation. I didn't know it was a taser at the time. All I see is a weapon in my face, and I became aware it was a taser because he was threatening to shoot me. He said, "I'm gonna tase you."
This should have never happened.
Howard Allen Levy is Dearden's attorney.
Yeah, you hear it and you go, that's not believable, that they would arrest somebody that absolutely did nothing except his job.
But it happened. Dearden was handcuffed and taken to jail.
I went to jail. I was scheduled on stage at the Masked Singer. I worked for CBS Studios, and I was in custody. And I got a no call, no show as a result. And I was indefinitely removed from the schedule.
What saved Dearden from being charged with assaulting a patient was this: the body cam the sergeant was wearing during the alleged assault.
After they looked at the body cam, what did the LAPD do?
No charges were filed. I was released with just a misunderstanding as an explanation.
We reached out to the LAPD to get their side of the story, but we were told the department does not comment on personnel matters.
What do you think about that?
That is unacceptable. This is my livelihood. This is my job, my career. This completely devastated my life overnight.
A clerk at the Charlotte County Sheriff's Office has been fired for racist comments she made off the clock. Thanks for sticking with us. For local coverage at 6:30, I'm Patrick Nolan.
And I'm Jane Monreal. According to the sheriff's investigation, she called someone on Facebook derogatory names. But that clerk says she's not racist. Fox 4's Rachel Lloyd's at the sheriff's office tonight with the Internal Affairs report. Rachel?
This report here says Rachel Yerger claims calling the Facebook friend ignorant and black was her best response to his message about a public recording. Arlen Wood says he was trying to educate Rachel Yerger in a Facebook message, saying as a public employee, you waive your expectations of privacy.
Stop recording me.
He was referring to this video of Yerger, now posted on YouTube, telling someone to stop recording her at a sheriff's office, directing him to their policy. But Wood told her federal law overrides that. She responded, "You are ignorant. I'm saying you're ignorant and black."
I would have never assumed that she would ever say something like that, especially not directly to me.
Wood lives in Texas now, but went to Charlotte High School with Yerger. Wood called me to say he never thought of her as a racist person until now.
There are a lot more openly racist people today than there were when I was in high school.
The report says Yerger told investigators she's not racist, but Wood says he's not buying it based on her choice of words.
And the way they're broken down just kind of implies that what she's really getting at, which is ultimately using a derogatory term such as the N-word.
Former police chief and private investigator Walt Zalisco says even though Yerger was off duty when she said that, he believes the sheriff's office handled the situation appropriately.
Police officers, clerical workers, and law enforcement agencies, they are subject to review of their social media. And anything that is derogatory on there can be a cause for disciplinary action and including termination.
And the office says they decided to terminate Yerger because her actions go against their core values and reflect poorly on her.
So a waitress at a North Fort Myers restaurant was caught on camera using racial slurs against a coworker. He's been fired. She hasn't been. Here's a look at that video.
Black going black. He's not even black.
And we bleeped that out for obvious reasons. Orlando Ortega posted this video to Facebook. It has more than 200,000 views right now. He says she started yelling after he asked how to void something on the computer. However, the owner of the restaurant, Cactus Jack, says this started when Ortega was let go by the restaurant. She says he punched the waitress in the face.
The lady in the video he actually did hit. She had blood on her face. She was bleeding. She is still working here, yeah. I've not been here long and she's working. But we will obviously address that.
The owner says the restaurant does not condone racist language, but also said the fight took place off the clock. Ortega went live on Facebook Sunday night where he says he absolutely did not provoke anything.
You call me the N-word?
Will you stop
That's
it?
what you are, motherfucker. Wow. Wow. Wow.
Motherfucker.
Yep, I got your address, 44398. I got you.
Fuck you, punk motherfucker.
I got you saying the N-word, boy. I got you. Boy? Yep. You're a nigga, motherfucker. Got you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Get the fuck out of here, nigger.
Thank you.
I told you to get off my driveway. I'm gonna knock the fuck out of you. Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, man, you cannot hurt me.
I'm on my shit. I'm gonna go get my gun. You're not allowed in here. It's private property and private street.
I'm letting you know we're just doing a job.
I don't want anything from you, nigger.
Okay, I got you.
You are so fucking fucked up and you don't realize it. You don't realize it. I thought you was cool. And you gonna sit here and call him a fucking nigga while you sitting beside an African American woman? You are fucking stupid. You need to be locked the fuck up. I hope they lock your motherfucking ass up. You a dumbass bitch. You a dumbass bitch. Who the fuck is the nigga? You done lost your bitch. You done lost your motherfucking mind. You done lost your motherfucking mind. You understand me? You are stupid. Get the fuck off me. Brother, you fucking stupid cunt. I'm a cunt? Yeah, you're a cunt. You're a cunt, dude. I'm a cunt. You're a fucking cunt. Stop the fucking magical motherfucking cunt. The best you can do, you gonna sit beside me and call him a motherfucking nigga. Rather than security guard, help me, man. Get the fuck off. Don't touch me! Don't touch me!
All right, and we back on the forecast. Now, it is important that we start controlling our own media. It's important that we control the images that are in our children's head of themselves and the image all of us have. Because when you see the same thing over and over and over, even you start to believe that about yourself. And media is one of the biggest tools that they have and that they use. It's one of their war strategies. And even though they try to censor us, today we can start to control our own images. And it's nothing new. We've always done things to control our own images. Even back during slavery, We used our own forms of media to communicate with each other, to spread news. And they immediately made anti-slavery publications illegal. Because even then, they understood what happens when you control the images that you put into people's mind. That's why they portray us the way they do in media, in the news, on TV, in movies. And the irony is, they really are addicted to us. That's why everything we create and what we do ends up selling. It's just that somebody else take control of the market of it. And they end up getting paid instead of one of us. And despite the images that they portray of us, everybody always seems to follow our trends. It's a reason why they were so addicted to blackface back in the day. And by the way, it was Jewish and Irish actors, because they love to compare the Irish and Jewish oppression to ours. But they use degrading us as a way to earn their whiteness. And that's what other minority groups try to do. And even though they're trying to make fun of us, blackface is nothing but them trying to imitate us. And that's how they spread their stereotypes of us. There's a reason why movies like Birth of a Nation was shown by the president at the White House. And still today, more than 100 years after that, they take a white woman's word no matter what over a black man, even if it's evidence against the white woman. It was a reason why we could only play slaves or criminals. And even though it's changing a little bit, they are still in control and make the profit from it like with everything else. And they still control the narrative. And they still try to always sneak in that white savior thing. Like we can't do anything without some kind of white savior coming along. And we have to get off of that, because we have to have faith in ourselves, because we don't have anybody else but us. And we have to have more urgency than they do to maintain their position for us to get out of the position that we are in. And if we can't put aside whatever petty differences we have to stop them from harming us and our children, then we're going to be in this position for a long time. In North Carolina, our brother Kyron Hinton was brutally beaten by Raleigh police. Now let's try to find out what happened to this brother.
I was basically assaulted, beaten, kicked, and my dog mauled me about 20 times. At some point in time, yeah, I lost consciousness. I didn't know what was going on.
That's the Raleigh man seen on this dash cam video here being beaten and bitten by a police dog. He's talking about what happened that night and what he wants to happen next. And tonight we are hearing more of that interview with Kyron Hinton.
Hinton sat down and talked about the incident and what community activists want to see happen now. Joel Brown put together this story just a few minutes ago before he headed out to US 1.
It's been almost 2 months since what happened in the middle of Raleigh Boulevard and Yonkers Road, but it was just this week we finally got to see the police tapes of the violent confrontation between Kyron Hinton and those 8 officers. And today we watched it with Kyron.
This happens all the time, and it's swept under the rug.
Watching the video of April 3rd back with Kyron Hinton, he said it's not anger he's feeling.
At some point in time, yeah, I lost consciousness.
Telling us most of his memory of the punches and blows by police fist and flashlight, resulting in a broken nose and fractured eye socket and over 20 police dog bites, were lost in the haze of the chaos. He does remember his desperation.
I started praying, and I said, God, please help me. Please stop this. Ultimately, I could have lost my life.
Hinton's told us before he was intoxicated that night and in crisis when a state trooper responded to what police say was a man screaming in the intersection. 8 officers from 3 law enforcement agencies converged, turning from calm to chaotic. Then the alleged beating by 2 state troopers and a Wake County deputy, Cameron Bradwell, and his police dog, Loki.
You can hear at one point where he's speaking to one person saying, yeah, I got him in the eye a couple times. Go over there, look at him, So,
you heard that as bragging.
Of course. Of course.
You think he was proud of that?
Yeah, that's the way it seemed.
Deputy Bradwell's attorney says the officer heard over police scanners that Hinton was armed, that Hinton had a gun. He did not.
You talk about the 911 calls. Nobody's heard this. They keep talking about that somebody did. Who said it? Can we hear that?
We can't be silent, and we will not allow anyone to silence our voices.
Kimberly McTerry and Diana Powell and Don Blagrove leading the way as community advocates in Hinton's case, using it to shine light on what they see as a much larger issue in police culture.
How many of our other young men have died because we didn't have any footage or any video?
There is a systemic problem that starts with the culture of law enforcement, not just in the local law enforcement, but nationally.
This is our community at the end of the day, and I just hope this could be a catalyst to, change for everybody.
The mother of a man attacked in this video says she could not watch the footage. The man holding the K-9, Deputy Cameron Bradwell, is on trial for felony assault during the arrest of Kyron Hinton last year.
CBS 17's Michael Highland is live in Raleigh. And Michael, you talked to Kyron Hinton's mother after she saw that video.
She says she couldn't watch the whole thing, that it just became too much for her. But she says she's going to be here at the Justice Center every day of the trial, seeking justice for her son.
Here, Deputy Bradwell with the dog.
Sitting in the front row with an American flag, Kyron Hinton's mother, Vicky, is trying to watch every moment. But during this video, she eventually had to look away.
But I just can't. I just can't. It's brutal. It's excessive force. It's just wrong.
A witness recorded this video, which jurors saw Thursday. You see Deputy Cameron Bradwell arrive with his K-9 Loki, unleash the dog, then hit Kyron Hinton. Several witnesses called 911 last April when they saw him in the middle of the road. Police who responded say he appeared to be under the influence of drugs and alcohol and dealing with mental illness.
But you don't know what it's like to be a mother, and really every day you watch that door and hope they come home.
The jury heard from Candace Cox, who recorded the video. She also called 911, saying she thought Hinton had a gun. It turned out to be a cell phone. An attorney for Deputy Bradwell told jurors on Wednesday he made a judgment call.
Cameron at that point felt, the evidence will be, that he had to act, that he didn't have any choice. And he made the split-second decision to act.
Vicky Hinton says it's tough to sit in the courtroom with him.
I have to love him because I am a Christian, but I would love to beat his butt. Yes, I'm going to sit through the trial, but my heart is broken. But for America, my son, all sons.
Now, this brother Kyron Hinton admitted he was intoxicated and he was having a mental health crisis because the brother does have mental health issues and has been diagnosed. But this brother was on the road screaming for help. Now, a woman saw him and called 911. But again, like a lot of people say over and over, this is why we need our own institutions, our own people we can call. But this woman called 911. And we have to be careful about calling the police, and we have to be sure that we need them. And when you call, unless you're absolutely sure, do not say the person has a gun, because you already know what the police are going to do when they show up. But this woman called 911 and said this brother may have a gun. She doesn't know. And then a group of cops showed up and surrounded this brother. And one of the cops even testified that when they got there, they quickly noticed it wasn't a gun. It was nothing but a cell phone. Even though, of course, they always try to use that as an excuse. But as these cops were talking about how to handle the situation, another cop, Cameron Bradwell, started approaching them with his dog. And within 20 seconds of him showing up, everything escalated. This cop, Cameron Bradwell, released his dog on him, and the dog bit him over 20 times. And then all of the other cops just started jumping his brother. And they kept beating him, and eventually this brother lost consciousness. And they ended up breaking an orbital bone in his eye, and they broke his nose. And then after they beat this brother up, they arrested and charged him. And of course, the police didn't show their body camera, but they didn't realize that somebody else was recording. And when the video came out, the cop Cameron Bradwell and 2 other cops were charged.
Sheriff deputy on trial in an assault case is now pleading guilty, and he won't be able to serve as a law enforcement officer any longer.
That's right. Wake County Deputy Cameron Bradwell entered that plea earlier this morning. The charges were connected to his role in the arrest of Kyron Hinton last year. CBS 17's Michael Highland has been on top of this trial since the very beginning. So, Michael, why did all this happen now?
When I talked to the lawyers involved in this, they said there are several factors here. Among them, the fact that Kyron Hinton passed away earlier this year, and then ultimately the risk of not knowing what the jury would do. Here's the moment Deputy Bradwell entered his guilty plea to 1 count of willfully failing to discharge his duties.
And are you in fact guilty?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand you'll have the right during the sentencing hearing?
And it was emotional for him throughout this hearing. As part of this deal, Bradwell has to surrender his law enforcement certification permanently. The crime he pleaded guilty to is a misdemeanor for his role in this video you see here. He faced felony assault charges, but those are dropped. The judge sentenced him to 45 days in jail, but suspended that sentence and placed him on probation for a year. He also has to do community service. After that, we spoke to the district attorney and Bradwell's attorney.
Are we going to do a live shot?
It's been important to us from the beginning that Mr. Bradwell no longer be able to serve in a law enforcement capacity. This allowed us to ensure that outcome.
My advice to any and all law enforcement officers and anyone who is considering going into the profession that they need to get another line of work, because this is just the beginning. And it's not fair.
The former state troopers caught on camera during the arrest of Kyron Hinton back in 2018 walked out of court today without serving any jail time. Michael Blake accepted a plea deal in the case, and while he didn't get prison time, under the terms of the deal, he can't serve as a law enforcement officer. CBS 17's Jamise Price was in court and has reaction from prosecutors and the defense.
Inside a Wake County courtroom, former state trooper Michael Blake accepted guilt in his involvement in the arrest of Kyron Hinton, a Raleigh man who was seen on video being beaten by law enforcement officers in April of 2018. Hinton died last year, but his death was unrelated to the beating. Blake was one of 4 law enforcement officers involved. In court on Monday, he pleaded guilty to 2 misdemeanor charges of willfully failing to discharge duties. In doing so, the state dismissed 2 felony charges: felony obstruction of justice and assault with a deadly weapon inflicting serious injury.
So I believe this is a good outcome, and hopefully the community can move forward beyond this.
Blake received a suspended sentence of 45 days on those misdemeanor charges and will have 12 months of unsupervised probation. He also had to relinquish his law enforcement certification.
We didn't want to leave any chance that he could carry a badge and do this in another case.
In court today with Michael Blake was his family. His attorney says it was his family that became the deciding factor in him accepting this plea deal.
Sometimes it's better to walk away from things and start again.
Blake's attorney, Joe Cheshire, said this was a tough case.
If there's someone that's not paying attention to law enforcement demands, who is super strong, and there's a tussle and there's a dog in the middle of the tussle, you've got a real opportunity to be hurt as a law enforcement officer.
The death of a man who won a use of force settlement against the city of Raleigh has now been ruled a homicide. You may remember in April of last year, Raleigh Police, the Highway Patrol, and Wake County Sheriff's Office all took part in the arrest of Kyron Hinton. The Wake County DA's office found the way Hinton was arrested to be excessive and charged 3 state troopers and a Wake County deputy. In February, Hinton received a settlement of $82,000. Less than 24 hours later, he was dead. District Attorney Lauren Freeman says the autopsy found a dual cause of death: cocaine toxicity and injuries around his neck. Police continue to investigate what happened.
Now, even though the police admitted it was brutality and even charged the cops, you know they couldn't go too far off code. The cop Cameron Bradwell was charged with felony assault, but somehow a felony assault charge turned into 1 count of misdemeanor willfully failing to discharge of his duties, meaning he's guilty of not quitting his job fast enough. And he was sentenced to 45 days in jail, but the judge suspended it. But as a part of the deal, he had to agree never to become a cop again. And we'll see if he does or not. The other cop, Michael Blake, also got a plea deal, and he won't have to spend a day in jail either. But he also has to give up being a police officer. Meanwhile, the charges against Kyron Hinton were dropped, and eventually the city reached a settlement. But the very next day after he received his first settlement payment, he was dead. Now, at first they tried to say it was just a drug overdose, but after an autopsy, they found out it was homicide. And who knows what happened to this brother, but I wouldn't rule anything out, because I know how they get down. But these cops, no matter what they did, get to move on with their life and start fresh. And when they know they can do things like that without punishment, then they're going to keep doing it over and over. In New York, another brother, Fitzroy Gayle, was also beaten up by the police. This time, it was the NYPD.
I'm watching.
Alright, you're holding me by I guess my what's
Yo, bro, stay still.
Yo, what crime did I commit? Alright, look, you see?
Oh, bro.
What crime did I commit? Look, you gotta hurt me? You gotta hurt me? What did I do? What did I do? What did I do? I did not do anything. He saw me in the park and he said, came out the car and followed me. Why are you following me? Can you answer my question? Look in my eyes, I'm talking to you. You're not moving. Why are you going at your back? I'm happy you didn't move. I just came to work. What's the problem? Look in my eyes, I'm talking to you. No. Stop moving. Stop moving. Tell me what crime did I commit?
Ask if you being detained, bro.
Commit a crime.
Ask if you being detained.
He said, come over. He followed me and said, come over here real quick. I'm like, what? Who are you? What crime did I commit? Stop moving. You about to shoot me? Stop moving. I don't have a crime. I don't have a weapon on me. What crime did I commit? You're supposed to do that. That's the law. That's the law. You're supposed to keep your yard. I'm saying, sir. I know. I did not commit a crime. I did not commit a crime. I did not commit a crime. I did not commit any 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 crime. Calm down. My hands to my
Bro, he wasn't even resisting.
Just so you see what one guy got. Nigga down. Oh my God, look at this one. Why would they do that?
A video posted online of an arrest in Brooklyn is prompting protests of the NYPD. Good evening. I'm Christine Johnson.
I'm Dick Brennan in for Maurice Dubois. Welcome back to CBS 2 News and now streaming on CBS 10 New York. Today, the mayor and police commissioner reacting to that video that's been viewed millions of times.
This is people angry by the way it all went down are protesting. CBS 2's Alice Gaynor live now in Canarsie with the details for us. Alice.
Christine and Dick, this happened last night. Tonight, a peaceful protest that is just about wrapped up here in front of the 69th Police Precinct. Now, those who attended the rally allege this was police brutality, and they want the Brooklyn DA to investigate. The cell phone video begins after a man has already been stopped by an undercover police officer.
I didn't commit any crime, so can you get off me? I'm moving.
The person who posted the video on Twitter said that she pulled out her phone once she saw this happening on her walk home.
Yo, bro, stay still.
The man who was stopped starts walking away as he asks several more times what crime he committed. Police backup comes.
Stop moving. I did not commit any crime. I did not commit any crime.
The camera moves away and then back, where we see multiple officers approach, and he's taken down. Police say a shot spotter alert came in yesterday indicating shots fired, and several blocks away from that, around 7 p.m.
Two officers, I think, encountered two males in a park. As they approached them, they believe they're smoking marijuana. As they go to interact with them, again, they just had these shots fired in the area. The two males immediately take off running in different directions.
NYPD Commissioner Dermot Shea says there will be an internal review of what happened.
There's a scrum, if you will, of officers. You see somebody standing on what I believe to be his ankle.
He says he saw photos of the man arrested in the video, and he had an abrasion on one knee, but otherwise no injuries.
What do we want? Justice! When do we want it?
Now! Fitzroy Gayle is the man arrested in the video. His mother and others rallied outside the police precinct.
And you're gonna have one person, a young man on the ground like that and treating him like he's an animal. And it was not necessary.
The other young man who was caught was issued a summons and released. As for Gayle, he was arrested and charged with several things, including resisting arrest and possession of marijuana. He was released on a desk appearance ticket. Mayor de Blasio tweeting tonight the video was painful to watch, but that a full investigation is underway.
Now, this brother Fitzroy Gayle was just walking down the street, minding his own business, and he said he just got off work when a plainclothes cop, and they're protecting his identity, they won't say his name, approached this brother out of nowhere. And when this brother asked what he did, he didn't even answer him, which is technically a violation of your rights, even though we know what black rights mean in America. But he never accused his brother of committing a crime or said anything he did wrong. He just threatened to tase him. And then all of a sudden, 6 or 7 more cops come running down the street. Even though this brother wasn't resisting, he was holding his hands up. All he was doing was asking why was he stopped. But then all of these cops who are armed just start jumping his brother. And then after they finished beating his brother up, of course they arrested him for resisting arrest and obstruction. Now, when this video came out, the cops used every excuse that had nothing to do with this brother at all, or the situation, trying to justify what they did. The police claimed they were responding to a gunshot alert, which had nothing to do with him, and they saw 2 people smoking weed. And by the way, in New York, smoking weed is no longer a crime, and it should have been nothing but a ticket. But again, if there was somebody smoking, it had nothing to do with this brother. But the police said when they approached him, they took off running. And of course, we all know to them, we all look alike. And of course, he just happened to be the brother that was there to fit the description. And then after everything, they ended up charging his brother with marijuana possession, even though he denies he even had weed on him. The brother was coming from work. And then the NYPD commissioner said if this brother didn't run, then none of this would have happened. Even though most likely it wasn't him that was smoking, it wasn't him that was running, it wasn't him that had anything to do with a gunshot. And if he was running, why would he just be standing there with his arms up, letting this one little cop hold him until his backup comes? Not even trying to get away, just holding his hands up, asking what he did. And the video clearly shows he was complying. He wasn't trying to run. Now, of course, most likely none of these cops will be punished. They didn't even want to say their names. And the commissioner is already caping for their brutality before they can even investigate what happened. But if we're waiting for them to investigate themselves, to charge themselves, to sentence themselves, for us, we're going to be waiting for a long time. Until we start taking justice, then the same thing will keep happening over and over. At the end of the day, we are all we got. And at some point, enough has to be enough. We have to be motivated enough to do what we have to do.
Crack in that bag? That no crack. Man, come on, man, you serious? Man, ain't no crack in that bag, man. Don't beat the fuck out of me for nothing. Man, what a crack at?
He just put it, yeah, he just, I'm saying, I'm recording it. I'm recording it.
No, you recorded. She recorded. She recorded. She recorded. She recorded. Get out the way. Run, girl. Go inside. Go inside, girl. Go inside. You don't put your hands on me. Wait. You don't put your gun. Calm down. Calm down.
He put his hands on us. We're on the airline. This steward has put his hands on my husband, and he's mad. Take a picture.
Okay, go with her.
I said,
shut the fuck up. Motherfucker. I will beat the shit out of you. I will beat the shit out of you.
where are the police? Where are the damn police?
You better get off.
Listen to me.
You better get off. You better get off. You better get off.
Where's the police? Where's the police? Where's the security? And all he had to do was help. All he had to do was help. He touched him! He touched him! He touched him! He hit him! You saw him! You saw him! You saw him! You saw him! And I'm recording. You saw him! You saw him!
No, he hit me.
Not lying.
But they say I hit him. He hit me.
Listen, we heard this already. Now you're finished. Okay. Listen, if you don't finish, you will get in trouble.
Listen.
You better listen.
You tell them.
We asked
Not
for help.
just me.
Huh?
You guys see that?
This isn't illegal. This is not against the law. This is my right. This is my right. This is my right. This is my right.
Okay. Yeah, it's against the business.
Who's right? Show me. Show me.
What you guys say?
Atlanta-based company is hit with backlash because of a simple commercial. Well, the Honey Pot, it's a plant-based feminine product line, was flooded with negative reviews because some say the ad isn't inclusive.
CBS 46's Ashley Thompson, she spoke with the company's founder who was taking the high road.
The Honey Pot is a Black-owned company that was founded in 2012. It's based right here in Atlanta, and I spoke with its owner, who's addressing some recent negativity.
Retailers that were into
one line in this Target ad for the Honey Pot has thrust the company into a national conversation about race.
The reason why it's so important for Honey Pot to do well is so the next Black girl that comes up with a great idea, she could have a better opportunity.
The Black-owned business was flooded with negative reviews after the spot ran, some even calling the Honey Pot racist for shouting out only Black girls.
I'm never surprised by something I don't have control over.
Beatrice Dixon, the founder of the plant-based feminine care line, tells me her products are for everyone, not just girls of color. She says all she wanted to do was shed light on inequality in the business world.
Basically, between 2017 and 2018, Project Diane reported that out of the $425 billion that was invested into businesses, 0.06% of that went to Black women-led businesses.
The internet backlash causing many to go out and support the Honey Pot. Its products now flying off the shelves at Target stores where sales have spiked.
We have external washes, we have wipes, we have a line of organic cotton tampons. We have menstrual pads.
We spoke with shoppers who are in Dixon's corner.
It's saying that we matter too, and that we're allowed to be entrepreneurs and create businesses and be a role model for other young girls.
But I think it's a great thing that she's doing it for people like us.
I have great gratitude for everybody that has supported us, for everybody that has bought our products, and I love you. Thank you.
Dixon says she hopes she can continue to pave the way for young Black entrepreneurs.
My friends and I have been asked to leave this Chinese establishment, a restaurant too, simply because we are Black in Nigeria. That's all I have to say.
Restaurant chain is looking into allegations of a racial incident at its restaurant in Evansville.
Well, many people took to social media over the weekend to respond to what may have happened at the Olive Garden out on the east side on Green River Road. The hostess, who says she was involved in that incident, is speaking out.
Eyewitness News' Noah Alatza joins us now with the latest on this. Noah?
That's right, Shelley and Brad. The NAACP, along with the Evansville Olive Garden, both say they are continuing to investigate after that alleged incident in which a white server did ask for a white server at that restaurant on Saturday. And we spoke with one of those people involved who says she's angry and wants something to change.
In front of all the customers.
2 Black employees claim they were targeted with racial discrimination. Amira Donahue was the hostess on duty as the incident unfolded. She says a customer's request for hot water turned into something ugly.
But she asked for a server that wasn't Black, and the manager complied. And I do agree that that was a bad decision at the moment, but there was a better way that could have been handled.
Donahue says the woman's actions didn't stop there.
And the lady also made comments about me to my other coworkers, saying that I'm not family friendly, that I should go work at a strip club instead of an Olive Garden, that am I even Black, like am I from here, am I from America, just like offhand comments like that and referring me to like the other one.
An Olive Garden spokesman says the company does not tolerate discrimination of any type and that senior leadership is investigating. The Evansville NAACP says it has not received a formal complaint, but it is also investigating. Reverend Gerald Arnold says he is withholding judgment and he wants to make sure everyone's voices are being heard.
It's probably not going to be the culture because they have a very diverse staff, a very diverse clientele. I go there myself. Okay, and so we have to investigate all those things.
As for Donahue, she says she's still reeling from the pain and shocked at the events of that Saturday night dinner rush, but hopeful that a positive change will come from this experience.
I would never expect it to be just so apparent in public, and it was just like it's 2020, not 1920. We should be over this. Something should have been done, and I feel like it should take more than just social media to get a problem like this out there.
Gordon County couple denies evicting a woman for having Black house guests, but a federal lawsuit filed today say the tenant has it all recorded on tape. Channel 2 investigative reporter with us now, Nicole Carr, live from Bartow County. Nicole, that is where the rental home's located, but you also talked to the landlords.
Yes, and like you said, Justin, the couple denies everything, including the existence of a recording. Now, the tenant is white. The house guests that she had, they were Black, and she says her landlord came to the door shortly after one of those visits last fall, calling her N-word lover, and it escalated from there.
Hi, are you Mr. McCoy? Hi, my name is Nicole Carr. I'm with Channel 2. We just got this lawsuit that was filed today.
I headed to Gordon County to find the McCoys. A newly filed federal lawsuit alleges they evicted a tenant from this Bartow County home because she had a black family over for a play date. The complaint says Mr. McCoy called her a N-word lover, and there's a recording of Mrs. McCoy saying, "I don't put up with N-words in my house, and I don't want them on my property."
Is there any truth to that?
No.
No?
I'm the best friend I got in colored space.
Your best friends are colored?
Yes, sir.
McCoy asked me if I knew his black neighbor. He said the eviction was necessary.
You couldn't walk through it. The people living in it now come down there and hopeless on it.
Okay. So it was damaged property, not black people that you had a problem with. So all of this is...
I'll sit you down now. Let me get those lady out.
Okay.
Patricia McCoy also denied the claims.
Some of my best friends are black.
And talked about damaged property the tenant refutes in the lawsuit.
Tore up the bathrooms and window sills and burnt the carpet, had to put new carpet in and everything.
But part of me wasn't shocked at all because racism is alive and well today.
ACLU of Georgia legal director Sean J. Young.
Racial discrimination is wrong. And whether it manifests in the form of this kind of blatant commentary or whether it happens more insidiously behind the scenes, it is wrong in every instance.
Yogurt is allegedly at the center of a racial tirade at a hotel in Norfolk.
All caught on video. 10 on your side's Tamara Scott has reaction from the victim and the hotel chain. Tamara.
Well, Joshua October is a rapper who came to Virginia for the first time this past weekend to perform in a show. But he says after this encounter, this may be the first and last time he visits.
Say what you were saying.
Come on, boy. Come on, prison boy.
Joshua October was supposed to be leaving to do a sound check for his show Thursday morning when a quick grab for yogurt at the Days Inn in Norfolk quickly changed everything.
He comes over to the door, stands in front of the door, and he's yelling at me, basically telling me to put it back. I'm like super confused because like yesterday I just grabbed like 3 of these yogurts and nobody was like coming at me.
Eventually the man let him pass, but October says the harassment continued, and that's when he knew he needed to record.
Prison boy, that old prison boy here. Look at prison boy. Yeah, look at that little dumb haircut he's got. Looks like a mop.
It was so judgmental. It was 100% discrimination, and it was 100% racism behind that.
October says more than anything, he was confused.
In no industry you work in, it could be retail, it could be, you know, food, restaurant. Should you ever speak to a guest like that, it doesn't even matter how upset that they got you. Like, you will get fired for speaking to a guest in that manner.
That's when he told the employee in the video. But the man didn't seem to care.
You're gonna lose your job.
I don't care.
You're gonna lose your job.
You think I'm worried about this job?
You're gonna lose your job.
Do you really think I care about this job?
You're gonna lose your job.
Do you really think I care? I ain't gonna lose my job over you.
The Days Inn management team felt differently. In a statement, they said, in part, the comments made are deeply troubling and the individual in question is no longer an employee of the hotel.
It does make me feel good, but I mean, the question is, did he learn his lesson? I don't think so, you know. I think that that's something that he has to teach within himself to change, and it's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to happen because he got fired.
Tonight, a Southwest Florida fair worker is out of a job after he called a man a racial slur while operating a ride. Video of that incident on Sunday night has been floating around social media. And Fox 4's Rochelle Elaine spoke with the man who filmed the video. She joins us now with the latest on the situation. Rochelle?
That man tells me he just wanted to take his kids on a ride, but he tells me after sitting down and strapping in, things took a turn for the worse. Though they came for the rides and the food, several families left the Southwest Florida Fair with a bad taste in their mouth on Sunday.
We didn't really know what to do.
Just as a group was getting ready to take off on a children's ride.
Oh my God.
Stop. The ride operator and another man get into a fight after the operator calls that man the N-word.
The guy wouldn't let the gentleman's kids on the rides. I'm not sure why. I could hear him call his wife a
Once the fight broke up, everyone was removed from the ride. I spoke to a man who witnessed the whole incident, and he says the fight happened in front of a bunch of kids, including his own.
I mean, that guy definitely should be fired. There's no excuse for that. I mean, especially being around kids.
According to the company that supplies fair workers to Lee County, that worker has been fired. The company went on to say in a statement that it does not and will not condone discriminatory behavior. The Southwest Florida Fair Management team echoed that thought in a separate statement to Fox 4. But despite the swift actions of management, the man I spoke to says he may not be as quick to come back to next year's fair.
Probably think twice next time, maybe I'll wait a couple days and see if there's anything, if anybody's posted about it, and, maybe we'll check it out then.
We've requested the name of that fair worker, but it has not been released to us.
It'll destroy my reputation, I'm sure, but my character won't change.
Now fired Oklahoma Christian University recruiter Cedric Sunray sitting down with News 4 after the exercise he calls an icebreaker ignited a firestorm.
He said, okay, everyone, now line up from darkest to lightest skin complexion.
He told us to line up nappiest hair in the back and straightest hair in the front.
Sunray defending it, saying he's done the exact same presentation 87 times just this year.
I break the teams into 4 teams, and whoever's in there, and then I say line up darkest to the front, lightest to the back. From the largest afro to the tightest braid to the blondest hair, blue-eyed student, they all want to know that they're valued and they're warranted, and so that's the kind of programs that I provide.
The educator of 20 years fired within an hour. The president of OC apologizing to the university before making a personal visit to Harding Charter Prep on Monday.
I'm very ashamed and embarrassed. I'm mad about this.
We caught up with 11th grader Corey Todd again.
I accept who I am and who I look like, so I feel like I don't need an exercise from a college recruiter to tell me that personally.
It's about breaking down all those walls.
Sunray tells News 4 he's already been hired by another Metro university. He won't say which one, but admits his teaching is unorthodox.
Will you do this exercise again?
Oh, yes.
You're going to keep doing it?
I've been doing this exercise for years and years because we have to have these discussions.
And one thing he says he will do differently is a more upfront explanation about the exercise.
He shouldn't be in the school field if that's his message.
Oklahoma Christian just up the road tells me they will be having multicultural training and they will be screening their presentations for the future.
There was somewhat of an altercation, verbal.
As there usually is between students, but this altercation about 2 weeks ago at Garrett County Middle School escalated.
One child called my child the N-word, and from my understanding, the teacher heard it, and then she proceeded to correct the child that said it and said that you're saying it inappropriately, this is how you say it.
It was just hours before school officials called parent Patrick Elkhorn. Then his child came home to tell him what happened.
And that's when I went to the superintendent's office and he and I had a conversation about it. You have to give a person an opportunity to make a situation right.
Elkhorn waited a week as an investigation was conducted, and the result, per recommendation of the school lawyer?
We've written a letter of reprimand put in her folder, permanent folder, and we don't expect that to happen again.
Elkhorn isn't satisfied.
The punishment doesn't fit the crime, in my personal opinion.
After talking with the school attorney, the superintendent says only so much can be done to punish this teacher, and the reason?
She's a 21-year veteran teacher.
Tenure. However, the teacher did send a letter to apologize. In it, she claims she repeated the word in class without thinking first.
Well, I'm not satisfied with a written apology from the language in the letter, because the language states that she used the N-word inappropriately. So my question is, when is it ever appropriate to use the N-word?
We asked the superintendent the same thing. His answer, never. Elkhorn says it comes down to an example that schools and teachers should be setting.
I don't really feel that there is any room in society, this is 2020, that we should be using that verbiage on either side of the fence.
Who's come under a lot of criticism, scathing criticism for her handling of this, referred to the people who were doing this last night as thugs. And she got a lot of criticism for that. There were people I saw on Twitter saying, why would you call them thugs? Then they're not going to listen to you. President Obama also called the protesters, in his words today, quote unquote, criminals and thugs. He also carefully chose to use that word. Isn't it the right word?
No, of course it's not the right word to call our children thugs. These are children who have been set aside, marginalized, who have not been engaged by us. No, we don't have to call them thugs.
But how does that justify what they did? I mean, that's a sense of right from wrong. They know it's wrong to steal and burn down a CVS and an old person's home. I mean, come on.
Come on. So calling them thugs, just call them niggers. Just call them niggers. No, we don't have to call them by names such as that. We don't have to do that. That is exactly what we've sent them to. No, when you say come on what? You would call your child a thug if they should do something that would not be what you would expect them to do.
Now, the word police have decided there is a whole collection of words that we all need to collectively unlearn because they're really, really racist. Words like blackmail and blackout. This got time on American television this morning.
Many headlines referred to the stock market plunge yesterday as Black Monday, and that is just one of the subtle and not so subtle ways that racism has been braided into our everyday culture.
Black Monday, black sheep can be freighted with a negative connotation that sometimes we don't even realize.
It's baked into the vocabulary.
Yeah, and I don't think we even realize when we have a skin color and a regular color, and we're connoting both in a negative fashion. There are relationships between the two, and I think we have to break not only the relationship, but those negative connotations.
The black man has been brainwashed, and it's time for him to learn something about himself. When he look at television, he see White House cigars, White Swan soap, King White soap, White Rain hair rinse, White Tornado floor wax, White Plus toothpaste. They taught him when he was a little boy that Mary had a little and his feet as white as snow. Then they taught him about Snow White. Then there's the White House. When he look at television, he see these two cars, one black, one white, and they put a gallon of gas in each one to see which car can go the farthest. And every time the black car stopped first and the white car keep going. So this brainwashes the Negro, see? Then he goes to the drugstore, he orders 2 dips ice cream. He said, I want a dip of chocolate, dip of vanilla. And every time they put the chocolate on the bottom and the vanilla. When the so-called Negro, the way the educational system has been outlined, he's been brainwashed. He needs to learn something about black. So when he goes to the grocery store, he goes get cake. He sees the angel food cake is the white cake, and the devil food cake is the chocolate cake. Everything bad is black. So he's been brainwashed. So now he needs to be taught something about himself so he can be proud and quit worrying you and pushing you out of your neighborhoods, quit running your daughter, and quit chasing you out of your schools. And every day you got a headache with this Negro that has been brainwashed by your kind. So now it's our job to re-brainwash him, to teach him that rich dirt is black dirt. Don't feel bad. Strong coffee is black coffee. You understand? You make your wheat integrated. So now he feels proud. Now he's not begging no more. Now he wants to be himself. He's not worrying you no more. So he needs some black history, and he needs some black culture, so he'll know who he is and be proud to be who he is and quit worrying you so much.
All right, and we back on the forecast. And I want to say RP to the brother Kajuan Raye, to the brother Kyron Hinton. And luckily, the brother Fitzroy Gayle is here to tell his story. But we have to start getting in control of telling our own stories, painting our own images, what our kids see, what we see, how we see each other. And we don't have any other choice but to support each other. The only difference between now and 100 years ago is the illusion of inclusion. We think we can fit in the system, but the system is designed to destroy us. But as long as we're subject to these systems, they can try to control our speech, what we do, how we move, how we act. They don't want us to have power over ourselves, but nobody can take that power away from us. We just have to realize the power that we do have. We've had plenty of black people try to create their own video platforms for us to participate in, but we didn't. We didn't support them. We get stuck and we get comfortable. And we just let our own demise keep happening over and over and over. And until we can manage that little bit of support, where sometimes it may be a little bit harder to support each other, until we get to that level, then the same thing will keep happening over and over and over. Now, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're going to keep falling for anything.